Hello, welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. On this episode, I will discuss a upcoming hike I have on a portion of the Florida Trail that goes through the Ocala National Forest. I will cover what I have projected my days will look like in terms of mileage and the campsites that I'm planning on staying at. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. The Ocala National Forest portion of the Florida Trail is about 64 miles long, and it is often described as some of the best part of the Florida Trail. It also contains some of the most used sections of the trail, along with parks and recreation areas that get a lot of visitors each year. As this portion of the trail goes through several springs and recreation areas that are very popular with not only day hikers and hikers, but also RVers, campers, and a lot of weekend users. And if you look at any descriptions, they always advertise that it contains 3 first magnitude springs. And in these springs, visitors can swim, snorkel, do diving, and other water recreation sports, while they enjoy the year-round even temperatures. So be inquisitive. I want to know, they put it out there like we all know what a first magnitude spring is. What is a first magnitude spring? Is first magnitude like the best? Like number 1? It's like the best springs in the world? Or is it like a beginning spring? Like the first order spring? And then there's like a 2, 3, 4, and 5. What's better, what's worse? And how we even know? And who else, beside people that are into springs, I'm assuming there are some, would even know this? So I had to look up what a first magnitude spring was so that I would know, and now you're going to know too. So a first magnitude spring is one that has a flow rate of 64.6 million gallons of water a day, I guess, or more, or 100 cubic feet of water per second. That doesn't sound like a lot, but the 64.6 million gallons a day sounds like an awful lot. So it is actually the most flowing springs in the world. Not the least, but the best. So now, if a Jeopardy question ever comes along about what is a first magnitude spring, I expect you to get it right. In addition, the Ocala National Forest has numerous other lakes and rivers, as well as a lot of trees and sand pines. This forest is a popular spot with both locals and lots of visitors because it is near the Orlando area. So that whole area of Florida is a draw to lots of visitors. Additionally, the Ocala National Forest is home to a large population of black bears. So caution needs to be used as it relates to food and food storage. Because of the time of year that I'm going to be going, which is hunting season, there will be some additional restrictions and challenges for me while I go hiking. There are regulations that forbid stealth camping, or what is in essence camping along the trail, at any place other than an approved hunting season campsite. So what this means is, even though there is a campsite that is actually an actual campsite that you can camp in any part of the year, during hunting season you cannot camp there unless it's been approved. And personally, I have to say, I don't really think this is an issue. I don't think that hunters and hikers come to conflict that much. And I don't think that me staying at a non-approved campsite along the Florida Trail is going to put me in any danger or risk when it comes to hunting season. If anything, the only conflict I think we get is that I'm actually making it harder for the hunter to bag a deer, and that might make them annoyed at hunters. So I guess they have that. But other than that, I think all this does is make it harder to plan a trip, and it makes it more challenging because the campsites are further apart in certain places than they might ordinarily be. So you can't just go hiking and at the end of the day you're tired and just decide, I'm going to stop right here. You may have to walk a little further or stop earlier to be at an approved hunting season campsite. So this has impacted the flexibility of the hike and forced me to plan my days and my stops a little more rigidly than I might ordinarily do. Now, most campgrounds that are approved for hunting season or just in regular have numerous sites that are first come, first serve. So you can't make a reservation, you have to show up that day to get them. And this is also for the purpose of hikers in the area so that they can come in and every site won't be booked up because you can't reserve these sites. You have to basically show up to get them. However, there's nothing to say that someone didn't show up earlier in the day and book that site. Most hikers are walking in the morning and coming into camp sometimes very late, whereas someone that's out there for the day would probably have showed up much earlier and may have grabbed those sites. I spoke with, like I usually do, I did call the ranger station and 2 of the campsites in making preparations. 1, to find out about campsites and availability, and 2, also trying to plan where I could park my vehicle. And in speaking with them, they don't usually run out of campsites for hikers. In other words, the first come, first sites generally don't go, except on very busy holidays or weekends. In that case, they recommend you have a reservation. So I took their advice for the first night, and I did book a reservation at a campground. Another issue is that booking a reservation at these campsites that are hunting approved are $32.64 a night. So that gets pretty expensive. Being a rule follower, and after speaking with one of the campgrounds, I decided to reserve a site at that campground for my first night stay because I was worried that there might be an availability problem. I'm not anticipating there being an availability problem because it is a Sunday evening, and I don't think that's a very busy night or day for people to go hiking. I think if I was coming up there on a Friday or Saturday, it would be more of an issue. But it is coming into the holiday season around Thanksgiving, and there may be many people on holiday, especially from other countries, that may come down here, and they do book sites for a week or 2 at a time, and they come down either to camp or to RV. So that being said, because there were several sites already booked up, I decided to book a site at my first campground. And the cost of that was $34.64. So if I was to stay at a campground that's approved and I had to pay that for every night of my stay, we're talking about $140 roughly for camping fees, which is to me a little steep. It makes your hike a little expensive. Fortunately, there's no other permits or fees needed, so hiking is free, but the staying in the campsites aren't. And there are a few campsites that are not, you don't have to pay to stay at them in order to stay during hunting season. And I'll go into that a little bit further. Additionally, it's going to cost me about $20 to park my vehicle inside one of the campsites and leave it there. And I chose that because I didn't want to just leave it on the side of the road somewhere or in a parking lot where I feel it would be sitting for several days. I didn't want there to be any trouble, although I've heard there's no problem with vandalism, but you never know. So I figured for $20 to leave my car at a campground where I know it's inside a campground with many other campers and it's more secure, I figured it was worth it for me. Another thing is, I have to remember that when I'm paying for a site, I'm paying for that piece of land. And it doesn't matter if I'm pitching a tent, parking my car, or parking an RV there, I still am paying for rent for that spot. So for a tent, one person alone, it's a little steep. If I was going with 2 to 3 people and we could divide that cost, it would definitely make it more feasible for me to do camping at these campsites every night. But since I'm going solo, it's all on me. I called a couple of campgrounds, discussed the trail reservations, availability of campsites, and I came up with the following plan on what I'm going to do. So I will leave my vehicle at Rodman's campground and then get a shuttle driver who will take me back to the beginning of the Ocala National Forest portion of the Florida Trail. I did contemplate going up there a day early so I could camp there and then be picked up really early in the morning, because as it is, I'm going to be driving several hours to get to Rodman's campground, and I'm anticipating being picked up around 10 or 11 in the morning, most likely 11, and then figure an hour drive, so I probably won't really start hiking till around noon. If I was to camp there, I could be picked up at 7 or 8 in the morning and probably hit the trail around 9. However, because it is hunting season and I'm limited in where I can stay, as I just explained, and I already made a reservation for that first campground that you come to, it's basically a 10.5-mile hike. So I figure this is only about 3 to 3.5 hours for me. Even if I want to say it's 4 hours, I don't think that's going to take me longer than that to walk the 10 miles. So time is not as important because all it means is I get to camp earlier. So it's, you know what I mean, do I start early or do I finish early? Either way, I have some downtime. So I'd rather not be rushed a little bit. And since I already have a campground there, I'm not worried about getting there and finding out that there's no campsites available. So I decided that I would probably just drive there. I'll leave really early in the morning. It'll be a long day. I will get to the campground, park my car, and await my shuttle driver. He will drive me to the south end, which is located near Paisley, Florida. And that trailhead there is called the Clearwater Lake Trailhead. And then I'll start walking north back toward the direction my vehicle is in. So as I said, that first day I'll do approximately 10.5 miles and I'll come to my first stop where I already have a reservation for a campsite, and that's called Alexander Springs Campground. And because it's a fixed distance that I know I can do in about 4 hours, the urgency to get started so early isn't there. I'm also anticipating about 11 hours of daylight at that time of the year. So I will easily be able to make it to camp, set up, probably cook my dinner, and be done before dark comes to the campsite around 6. Now, I also considered going to the next campsite. However, that campsite is 18 miles away. And there is no way that I'm doing a 28-mile day, or am I going to feel like hiking another 18 miles that day, because I've already been up for a long time. So that won't be taking place. So on day 2, I'll start out from Alexander Springs and I'll hike the 18 miles to Juniper Springs. And Juniper Springs is one of the most popular campgrounds in the Ocala National Forest. I did not make a reservation there. It's going to be a Monday night, and I'm anticipating that I will easily be able to get a campsite somewhere at the campground. I hope that holds true. On day 3, it's going to be a short day. From Juniper Springs, I'll hike about 10.5 miles to Hopkins Prairie Camp. So I'm not anticipating a long day. I'll probably take my time, do a little leisurely pace, and get there early. Just like on day 1, most likely I won't go on to the next campground, because the next campground or place I can stay is a well-known place within the park. It's called the 88 Store. It's a store that is very friendly to hikers. Besides having some food and drink, it also allows hikers usually to stay there on their property for free. You can pitch your tent. However, it's another 14.8 miles. So once again, not likely that I'm going to do a 25-mile day. I'll probably just stay at the Hopkins Prairie Campground. And the following day, do the 14.8 miles to get to the 88 Store. After reaching the 88 Store, depending on what time it is, I'll probably grab some food there, especially if they have something like a burger or definitely a cold drink. And there is another campsite that's 2 miles past it that you can stay at, and it doesn't cost any money. It's just a campsite on the side of the road. If I'm feeling motivated, I'll hike the additional 2 miles that day. If not, I'll stay at the 88 Store and camp out back. I will be making contact with the owner in the next day or two to make sure that that is okay. I don't want to assume that I can stay there without touching base. I like to give people options, and I appreciate this is a store owner that does something that he doesn't have to do, and he does that out of the kindness of his heart. So I don't want to take advantage of that and assume anything and just show up there and pitch a tent. Past the 88 Store, there is another campsite that I can stay at. It's 2 miles further, and it's the Grassland Pond Camp. If it's early enough, after stopping at the 88 Store, I may move on to that site and decide to do the 2 miles that day, which saves me 2 miles the next day. Or I may just decide to stop at the 88 Store and relax and enjoy a drink. So depending on what I do that day, decides what I do the following day. On day 4 to the 88 Store, it's 14.2 miles. If I go to the grassland site, it's 16.2. On day 5, I'm going to be hiking back, hopefully, to my vehicle. The only difference will be is what I did the day before. If I decided to stay at the 8.8 store, it's going to be a 15-mile day. If I decided to hike on the extra 2 miles, it cuts 2 miles off of day 5's mileage, which gives me a 13-mile day to reach back to Rodman's campground, where my vehicle will be waiting. Either way, I'm anticipating that on a normal day, if I start out at around 7 or 8, I should reach my vehicle at Rodman's campground by 3 p.m. Give or take a little bit. I may be early or may be late, but it doesn't really matter. And after reaching Rodman's campground, I'll get back to my car. I have a change of clothes there. There are showers at the campground, so I may in fact take a shower and change my clothes, because I'm looking at about 6 hours of driving, and that would be my trip of the Ocala National Forest. Obviously, I'm going to be recording throughout the days to document my trip. I was hoping to do videos from the trail and upload them. I have since learned that probably not the best plan, because I don't have unlimited data unless I change my plan, or I'm in the area where there's Wi-Fi. It's probably not something that's really practical. I was hoping to really do that on the Pinhoti Trail. So more than likely, I'll probably have to stagger my videos and have them come out after I reach someplace with Wi-Fi so that I can upload them. I am contemplating upgrading my Wi-Fi or my wireless plan to include more data when I do the Pinhoti, but I don't know yet. I also was planning on shooting a video describing the gear that I'll be taking on this trip, unpacking my pack, so to say, which I actually did prior to this video, so I did do the video. It'll probably come out after this video, though. And the reason I'm doing that is because I did change several pieces of gear out on this trip in preparation for the colder weather that I'm anticipating really on the Pinhoti Trail in January. I don't think, it being Florida, that I'll have really cold weather. I might, if I'm lucky. I'm really hoping a cold front comes through and I get some cool weather. Getting down to the 50s at night would really be nice. So that's it for my Ocala National Forest hike plans. Before I leave, I just want to do one more thing and give an update. Paper Tiger has reached out to me, sent me his address. I sent him his t-shirt. He confirmed that he received it, and also was kind enough to send me this picture of him out on the trails in Florida wearing the shirt. So thank you, Paper Tiger, for that, and wishing you happy trails. I know that Paper Tiger is planning on doing the Ocean to Lake Trail himself in the coming months, and I hope that Paper Tiger will keep me up to date on his plans, because if I can, I will try to meet up with him while he's on the trail and bring some trail magic to him. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch these videos. If you like what I'm doing and you appreciate these videos, please consider becoming a subscriber. Additionally, please leave a comment below, good, bad, or otherwise. And if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up or a like. Always appreciate hearing comments from you. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Till we meet again.